Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, as well as the head of Pennsylvania Police, we believe expected to speak
evening.
now. Here they are.
My
Let's
name
listen
is,
in about the
Paris.
law enforcement shooting
I serve as
in
the
York.
Commissioner of the Pennsylvania State Police. I'm going to address you this evening concerning a critical incident that has rocked the community here in York County this afternoon. The incident occurred in Caduras Township, York County. I'd like to preemptively say that there are many details which at this point we are not prepared to release, given the ongoing nature of the investigation. That having been said, we would like to advise the community that there is no current active threat. The situation today involved law enforcement officers who were shot. I can confirm that the shooter is dead. I can confirm that there were 5 law enforcement officers who were shot today. 3 fatally, 2 that were transported here to Wellspan in York. They are currently listed in critical but stable condition. The District Attorney of York County, who is no stranger to this community, or in collaborating with the Pennsylvania State Police, Tim Barker, I've spoken to him. The Pennsylvania State Police has been asked to convene a major case team to conduct the lead in this investigation with the assistance and in collaboration and in partnership with the York County District Attorney. I can assure you that all of the resources of the Pennsylvania State Police are being brought to bear. There is still very much an active scene at Caduras Township, York County. Later this evening, the District Attorney will have more information to release. I can tell you that the Pennsylvania State Police have taken over calls for service for the Northern York Regional Police Department, and we will continue to do so to support our partners. I can tell you that I've spoken to the special agent in charge of the FBI out of Philadelphia, our municipal partners and county partners here in York County, and we've received multiple offers of assistance from our fellow state partners to include New Jersey and York. But we have a very large investigative scene. In being here today with our law enforcement family for the second time in 2025, I'd just like to say on a very personal note, our hearts and prayers go out to them, to the families of the deceased and the families of those officers who were wounded. There are simply no words that I can offer to assuage the grief that this community has experienced and unfortunately will continue to experience. The grief will be unbearable, but we will bear it. So we stand here today united for our partners all across the law enforcement spectrum, and we will not rest until we've conducted a full, fair, competent, and thorough investigation into this matter. Lastly, I would simply ask to the community here in York County and beyond, all across Pennsylvania and all across our nation, if you could keep the families that were touched by this tragedy today in your thoughts and prayers. Please give them a solemn thought. And to the women and men who are working diligently right now to push this incident forward and the investigation forward and the aftermath that will have to be dealt with and persevered through, our hearts and prayers are with them.
Breaking news out of Pennsylvania. 5 police officers have been shot in what's being called one of the deadliest law enforcement tragedies in York County history. 3 are dead. 2 are fighting for their lives. But here's the disturbing part. While officials flood the airwaves with prayers and condolences for officers, something crucial is missing: the truth about the shooter. And the silence is deafening. Notice the language: precious souls, extraordinary families, prayers for recovery. Every word drips with sympathy and honor, painting officers as heroes. But listen closely. What's missing? Not once is the shooter condemned as violent, dangerous, or evil. Instead, the narrative softens, focusing on mourning and community healing. Now imagine if the roles were reversed, if it were a black man who pulled the trigger. The language would instantly shift to criminal records, threats, and justifications for violence. That silence here, that refusal to label the killer for what he did, exposes the double standard at the heart of how tragedy is framed depending on who the victim is and who the killer is. Now ask yourself this. When citizens, especially black citizens, are killed by police, do you ever hear leaders speak with this much compassion? Do governors, commissioners, or district attorneys take the podium to call them precious souls? Do they ever ask the public to pray for those grieving families? The truth is, we rarely see that kind of humanity extended to victims of police violence. Instead, we see an immediate rush to justify the killing. The headlines focus on what the victim had in their pockets, who they once argued with, or what mistakes they made years ago. Trayvon Martin had Skittles. Eric Garner had cigarettes. George Floyd had a $20 bill. Somehow, those small details become their entire story. Evidence twisted to portray them as threats rather than lives worth protecting. But in York County, the story sounds very different. A white man kills 3 police officers and critically wounds 2 more, and suddenly, the language changes. Suddenly, it's not about danger or criminality, it's about healing, community, and prayer. There's no rush to dig into his past, no effort to villainize him before the world. Instead, the shooter is left unnamed, unjudged, and almost invisible in the narrative. That shift in tone exposes the double standard. When the victim is black, the focus is on justification. When the killer is white, the focus is on sympathy. And that contrast is not just troubling, it's the very definition of systemic bias hiding in plain sight. 3 Carteris Township is 98% white, with less than 1% black residents. That fact alone should raise questions when officials remain silent about the shooter's identity. He is already dead, no longer a threat to the community, no chance of escape, no ongoing danger. So why withhold his name? Why protect his image? The silence is not accidental. It is strategic. It shields the narrative, keeping the focus on sympathy for law enforcement rather than the uncomfortable truth about who carried out this act of violence.
This is an absolutely tragic and devastating day for York County and for the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We grieve for the loss of life, for 3 precious souls who served this county, served this Commonwealth, and served this country. We continue to pray for the full recovery of those who are dealing with their wounds. This, of course, is on the heels of just a few months ago when we lost another York County son, Officer Duarte, who again gave his life in the line of service. I had the opportunity with the Lieutenant Governor and with Senator Phillips Hill, Representative Grove, and your 3 county commissioners to spend some time with the families of those who have been impacted by this violence today. I think it's important for you to know that these families who are dealing with, they're grieving right now and they're suffering right now, took time to tell us how proud they are of their loved ones who put on a uniform to keep us safe. It's an extraordinary thing that these law enforcement families do. They support the individual who puts on the uniform and runs toward danger. They're there for them when they leave in the morning, and they pray throughout the day that they will come home at night. So I hope as this community comes together, as I know it knows how to do, and prays, that we think not just about those who wear the uniform, but those who stand behind and next to those who wear the uniform every day. These families are extraordinary, and I hope you'll join me in prayer for them. I had some time to spend with the law enforcement who are gathered here today, who ran here because they knew that their brothers in uniform were in danger or their lives were cut short. And I'll just share with you what I told them. The entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania respects them.
and we have their backs. And we so appreciate the work that they do every single day when they go out to keep us safe, when they go out to protect our freedoms and our rights. This is something that sadly we only tend to share in times of tragedy. I think it is important that this Commonwealth knows that every day we appreciate those who put on the uniform and those who keep us safe. There are others here at WellSpan who wear different kind of uniforms. And I want to say thank you to the doctors, to the nurses, to the staff here at this extraordinarily wonderful healthcare institution that sadly has seen too much trauma. But thanks to their extraordinary talents and their dedication to their neighbors, they're able to.
Now imagine if the shooter had been a black man. His face, his name, and his entire life history would have been broadcast on every news outlet within hours. His mugshot would dominate screens, his mistakes would be dissected, and his guilt would be assumed long before any investigation concluded. But because the shooter is almost certainly a white man in a 98% white community, the story is softened, his identity concealed, and the conversation redirected. That silence is not just about one case in Cotterus Township. It is a reflection of how race shapes the way America tells the story of crime and punishment. Here's the reality. When the violence is white, it's all right. The entire system bends, almost instinctively, shifting from the language of punishment to the language of prayer. Instead of outrage, we hear sympathy. Instead of condemnation, we hear comfort. And once again, the truth gets buried beneath carefully chosen words designed to soften the blow and reshape the narrative. It becomes less about the violence itself and more about managing the grief, about painting a picture of unity and healing, while carefully avoiding the uncomfortable question of who committed the crime and why his actions aren't held to the same standard. But Scripture tells us, all things that are hidden shall be revealed, and those done in secret will be exposed on the mountaintop. And that's what moments like this force us to confront. This isn't just a tragedy for York County or even for the state of Pennsylvania. It is a mirror for America, a reflection of how differently violence is framed depending on the color of the hands that commit it. And until that double standard is exposed and acknowledged, these tragedies will not just remain wounds for one community, they will remain open scars for the entire nation. You're watching the Untold Crime Chronicles, where we uncover the stories they don't want you to hear. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Be safe. Be blessed. And remember, the truth always has a voice.